Behold, happy is the man whom God correcteth. Therefore despise not thou the chastening of the Almighty. For he maketh sore, and bindeth up. He woundeth, and his hands make whole. He shall deliver thee in 6 troubles, yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. In famine he shall redeem thee from death, and in war from power of the sword. Thou shalt be hid from the scourge of the tongue, neither shalt thou be afraid of destruction when it cometh. At destruction and famine thou shalt laugh, neither shalt thou be afraid of the beast of the earth. For thou shalt be in league with the stones of the field, and the beast of the field shall be at peace with thee. And thou shalt know that thy tabernacle shall be in peace, and thou shalt visit thy habitation, and shalt not sin.
Out of all of these millions and billions of Israelites, we were entrusted with this gospel. Anybody else could have been brought into this truth, but the Lord brought us into it. This is a great honor. It should not be taken lightly. This is the greatest invitation to the greatest event ever. You have people out there that covet to be invited to a feast or a gathering of the so-called royals, or a so-called feast that everybody wants to go to, a gathering of so-called the minds of the world. People covet to that. But this is the greatest invitation ever, to the greatest gathering and the greatest event that ever took place on the planet Earth. And the Lord gave it to us. And the way we show our appreciation is by doing the video, doing the work. However much the Lord gave each one of us. That's showing gratitude.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS, whom rule well, teach well, being great examples to us younger brothers. Peace and blessing, salutation, hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the 4 winds in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful lake, the believers, the listeners, whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Al-Shai. And what I want to get into today, all right, this evening, is dealing with we're dealing with some history, okay, going into Philip II, which we know he was the father of Alexander, and I thought it'd be edifying and kind of go into the history of Philip II, leading up to Alexander, how he set the stage for Alexander. Because at the end of the day, if a brother could put Proverbs 21 and 1. Yeah, if a brother can put Proverbs 21 and 1, because at the end of the day, it's all according to Yahweh Bashem Al-Shai. All right. Who comes into power? Okay. What king is set up? Okay. Who wins particular wars? That's all set up in the spirit. And when you go into the history, you can see how the Most High sets the stage, for prophecy. Okay. And we're going to see that in the documentary. Now, when you go to GMS, it's the brother GMS Perry, always hope for elect, Proverbs 21 and 1. It says the king's heart, okay, or his mind, all right, is in the hand of the Lord, as the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. So these rulers that we see come on the scene, all right, how about Shemal Shah is in full control of these rulers, okay, and they do his bidding, okay, for prophecy's sake. You know, Yahweh Shemal Shah is in control overall, and having their perspectives, all right, gives us, all right, a perfect understanding of these worldly affairs that we see happening, man. You know, even in history now, and the things that are being set up. So, what I want to go to real quick is I want to get this in the book of First Maccabees. Okay, and then we'll go to this documentary, all right, dealing with Philip II. Okay. Now, when you go to First Maccabees, chapter 1, all right, this is First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. And it says, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, okay, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. Okay, this is speaking of Alexander. And before this prophecy came to pass, Alexander was set up pretty much by his father. Okay, Philip II, all right, of Macedonia. So let's go into a little history on Philip II, and I'm gonna let a lot of it play, you know, stop and do some commentary. Then we're gonna link this up to Esau Edom, okay, in prophecy, man. All right. So let's stop sharing there. Let me cue this up. Let me cue this video up.
Check the link in the video description for a 1-month free trial. After that, if you wish to continue, it's just $4.99. Most of what we know
All right. So I'm gonna cue this up. And we'll get straight to it. All right, now the brother put some precepts. There's a brother GMS prayer, always hope for elect. This is Daniel 2:20. And Daniel answered and said, blessed be the name of the Most High forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. Verse 21, and he changes the times and the season. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise and knowledge to them that know understanding. And see, the Most High, you know, set these kings up with particular wisdom, okay, to work their way into power, you know, because we're going to go into Philip, and Philip was known as a military genius, man, you know, one of the greatest military strategists, okay, of his time. Okay, the Most High give particular wisdom, all right, to particular men to fulfill his will. You see, but the ultimate, okay, wisdom of all is to who? Yahweh Shai, okay, the forever king. Now, I'm gonna let this play. Like I say, it's about start like at the 3-minute mark, so it's gonna be about right at 18 minutes long. I'm gonna let most of it run, you know, just interject, you know, sparingly, you know, Lord will.
about the early life of the king who would become Philip II of Macedon of the Argead dynasty comes from Book 16 of the Greek writer Diodorus Siculus's Bibliotheca Historica, or Library of History. In it, we learn that Philip, whose Greek name was Philippos, was the son of Amyntas III of Macedon. Born around 383 BC and the youngest of three brothers, the odds of Philip becoming king, simply due to his birth, were low. When his father died around 369 BC, Philip's elder brother, Alexander II, succeeded him as king of Macedon. But he was assassinated after barely 2 years on the throne, purportedly by his brother-in-law, a man named Ptolemy, who would then become regent, since the next in line, Alexander's brother, Perdiccas, was too young to rule. That same year, 369 BC, Philip and the sons of 30 Macedonian nobles were sent to Thebes as hostages. At that time, Thebes was the most powerful state on the Greek mainland, and they may have demanded such hostages as a sort of assurance that Macedon would not cause trouble for them in Thessaly. Ptolemy, who was serving as regent, was probably more than happy to comply, as he'd be able to, at least temporarily, get rid of another possible contender to the throne of Macedon should anything happen to the young Perdiccas, who he sought to control like a puppet. Though politically the kingdom of Macedon was weak, being a member of the Argead royal family allowed Philip to live comfortably as a guest in the house of Pamenes, a wealthy and well-connected aristocrat and general. This was a great privilege because most Greeks looked down on Macedonians and considered their country to be little more than an uncultured backwater full of thieves. This, though, wasn't really true. The Macedonians were actually extremely capable warriors and a fiercely independent people. Despite this, most Macedonians generally believed that their country and kingdom could not compare and would never be on par with the more established states of Athens, Thebes, Corinth, and Sparta. Though only 13 to 14 years old, Thebes and its highly disciplined and organized military must have made quite an impression on the young Philip, who, being under the wing of Pamenes, was able to meet the great Theban general, Epaminondas, who was arguably the most respected and popular warrior of his day. Ancient sources don't go into the specifics of exactly what he did and witnessed during his 3 years in Thebes, but given the environment and his connections with the Theban elite, the teenage Philip must have learned quite a bit about politics and military strategy.
So pretty much, all right, Philip was, from a lineage of Macedonian kings, okay, and he was the third. He was the youngest son, which means he was last in line, all right, to be a ruler, okay, because you gotta think, if you're third in line, all right, to be ruler, more than likely you're not going to be ruler, because the way lineages go, the throne is passed down, okay, to the firstborn, most of the time. Okay, you have your your exceptions, okay, every now and then, but whatever son that the throne is passed down to, well, his son will be next in line. So if you are the third in line, that means that you are behind the eldest brother and his children. And then you have the second oldest and his children. If something was to happen to, the first son's, all right, lineage, if him and his sons were, put to death, okay, then it would be the second oldest and his sons would be the new line of kings, okay? So it was very unlikely, that he was the position that he was in. It was unlikely that he was going to be king. Okay. And then you see the conditioning, the situation, the circumstances the Most High put him in. He had him, sent off as a hostage. Okay. But he was at one of the nobilities. Okay, he was at the estate of one of the nobles of Thebes, which was a powerful Greek city-state. So he was learning politics, and he was just so happened to be around a great military general, and he was learning warfare. Okay, so pretty much the Most High put him in a situation where he was being groomed to be king. He was learning kingly affairs, politics, and warfare. Okay, and there's no telling the type of game he was put on, when he was in that environment, man. You know, just to kind of explain what's going on.
He must have also dreamed that one day his country of Macedon could also be as powerful and respected as the Thebes of Epaminondas. While still a hostage in Thebes, Philip's elder brother, Perdiccas, broke free from the yoke of Ptolemy to rightfully assume his position as King Perdiccas III of Macedon. However, he was killed in battle around 360 BC in a disastrous campaign against the Illyrians and their old but well-respected king, Bardyllis. Perdiccas had designated his young son, Amyntas IV, to be his heir, with the now 23-year-old Philip as his caretaker and regent. Philip, though, had his own plans, and after about a year, usurped the throne from Amyntas and declared himself king of Macedon. Not fearing Amyntas as a threat, he let his young nephew live. No doubt being inspired.
At Full Sail, our technology programs are designed with a different approach to learning. We let students get hands-on and start creating. They're learning to code.
Inspired by what he saw and learned in Thebes, almost immediately seizing power, Philip began to reform the Macedonian armed forces. Up until then, the Macedonian military had consisted mostly of cavalry, along with light infantry drawn primarily from the common people and peasants. With better training and new equipment, Philip created an innovative sort of heavy infantry that we commonly refer to as the Macedonian phalanx. Though the typical phalanx formation had been around since before the days of the first hoplites, modern scholars generally use this term to describe the distinctive battle unit that Philip devised, which was later used all over the Hellenistic world for the next few centuries. Each soldier within the phalanx was armed with a long pike called a sarissa. While a sarissa could be any length between 13 to 20 feet long, most soldiers carried ones that were around 14 or 15 feet. When the first 5 rows presented their sarissas forward, a wall of metal pikes was formed, extending about 10 feet ahead. As this nearly impenetrable wall of death lunged forward, the sarissas would tear through the enemy with devastating force. The typical phalanx held a great advantage over the standard heavy infantry and hoplite armies of the day, whose pikes and spears were only 6 to 8 feet long on average. In addition, Philip also pioneered new tactics with regard to siege warfare and utilized siege towers and arrow-shooting catapults. He used these and other military innovations to build what would soon become the most disciplined and capable fighting force in the Greek world. Philip had 2 main goals. One was to subjugate the non-Greeks around his northern borders, most notably the Thracians and Illyrians, and 2, to seize the wealthy Greek cities along the northern Aegean. Perhaps to help with the former, Philip married Adata, a woman from a powerful Illyrian tribe who was reportedly the great-granddaughter of the old and well-respected king, Bardyllis, the same ruler who in the past had defeated in battle several previous Macedonian kings. However, the marriage didn't stop Philip from going to war with Bardyllis and seizing some land that had previously been taken from Macedon. During the conflict, the aged Illyrian king, who still led his armies into battle, was killed, which resulted in the Illyrians surrendering and giving back to Philip several cities that they'd taken in years prior. with a new peace treaty to augment the marriage alliance that had previously been forged between Macedon and the Illyrians, Philip had secured his northwestern border from future attacks. It was a great start to what would prove to be a relatively long and eventful reign. The following year, in 357 BC, Philip captured the former Athenian colony of Amphipolis, whose location near the gold and silver producing regions of Mount Pangaeus had made the city extremely wealthy. All of that wealth now belonged to Philip. It's reported that Amphipolis provided the Macedonian treasury with an annual sum of at least 1,000 talents of silver, which in those days was a considerable amount. In response, the Athenians declared war on Macedonia, but refrained from any real attempt to take Amphipolis because they were unable to commit so many men to fight so far from Athens for what would likely be a long and grueling siege. That same year, Philip took a second wife, a young noblewoman named Olympias from the land of Epirus to the southwest. Classical sources seem to indicate that theirs was not the happiest of unions, though Olympias for most of Philip's life remained the principal of his eventual 7 wives. She's most famous for giving birth to Philip's son and successor, Alexander. Yes, that Alexander. We'll get to him later on. For the rest of his life, Philip was constantly campaigning throughout northern and central Greece, all while strategically marrying several women and making military alliances to further strengthen his position. While he won many battles, his hard-handed tactics also created many new enemies and caused numerous cities to rebel whenever the opportunity arose. One of these was the northern Aegean city of Methone, where in 354 BC, Philip lost an eye in battle. He eventually took the city and razed it to the ground, though he spared its population and allowed each person to leave with one piece of clothing. What really propelled Macedon into the forefront of Greek politics was Philip's involvement in what became known as the Third Sacred War. When in 347 BC, the leaders of the area of Phokis, modern Phokida, used treasure that had been looted from the Temple of Apollo at Delphi to raise an army and threaten others in the region, the Thebans reached out to Philip for help. This must have been a dream come true for the Macedonian king, as now his country was seen as at least equal to the once powerful polis of Thebes, a state whose military institutions he'd respected and learned so much from during his youth as a hostage there. Philip's involvement in the Third Sacred War against the Phocians had given him immense influence in Greece. Within less than a generation, Macedon had gone from being regarded as a rural backwater to one of the main power brokers in Greek affairs.
So as you can see, Philip is pretty much, forging the empire through war. And he became so dominant in the region they became from, like you say, like pretty much a little country town, all right, to a powerhouse in their region, to where you had other, powerful Greek city-states, calling on Philip, for aid militarily, okay, because he was just so dominant in militarily, okay, and this set the stage for Alexander. Like Alexander, he he was groomed to be that. The Spirit of the Lord put, particular men in particular circumstances to fulfill His will. Okay, and we're seeing it play out. So now, all right, Philip is making some noise, all right, and he has brought Macedon, all right, to the forefront of these other Greek city-states. See, it was thousands of Greek city-states that made up what you call, Greece, okay? And the thing that made them Greek city-states is they spoke Greek and they will worship, the same gods, okay? but each Greek city-state will have, different laws and rules to govern their Greek city-state. Okay? And what we're going to see is Alexander is going to start unifying, these Greek city-states. And pretty much Alexander, his son, is going to inherit, a superpower Greek military. Okay?
Philip took advantage of his country's new position to expand his realm into central and southern Greece. In 346 BC, Philip made peace with Athens, his enemy since he took Amphipolis a decade earlier. This, though, was after he took the strategic pass of Thermopylae, which made him a much greater threat to Athens than ever before. Scholars debate as to why Philip felt the need to make peace with the Athenians and not proceed further south into Attica. The reason seems to have been that the Macedonian treasury was simply running out of money. Still, controlling Thermopylae allowed Philip to end the Third Sacred War on his terms, since no one in the region was powerful enough to challenge him while he controlled the pass. As for the Phocians, their war chest was completely empty, and they were forced to surrender to Philip and his allies. The final terms were that the looted funds from the Temple of Apollo had to be restored at a rate of 60 talents a year, and that the cities in Phocis were to be broken up into unwalled villages of no more than 50 households each. For his role in defeating the Phocians and helping to restore the treasury and wealth of the Temple of Apollo at Delphi, Philip and Macedon were awarded entry into the Amphictyonic League, an ancient but important council of various states in central Greece that voted on matters in the region and was associated with Apollo and his holy sanctuary. The council gave Philip the 2 votes that had previously been held by the Phocians, which, with his Thessalian and other allies, allowed him to influence affairs in the region. The more success he obtained, the more ambitious he became. After consolidating his positions in northern and central Greece, Philip focused his attention towards the east and expanded into Thrace and the region surrounding the Hellespont. Up until then, the Macedonians had been tolerated by the other main powers of the day. After all, none of the other Greeks really liked the Phocians. Everyone was weary of a revival of Athenian power, and most didn't trust the Thebans. But when in 340 BC, Philip laid siege to the city of Perinthos on the northern shores of the Sea of Marmara and threatened the shipping lanes that passed by Byzantium to the Black Sea, many of those who had for generations been bitter enemies temporarily reconciled their differences and united against him. Even the great king of the Persian Empire, Artaxerxes III, sent aid to Perinthos. Still, Philip was not deterred. Since he was making little headway in taking Perinthos, he sent a sizable force to Byzantium to simultaneously besiege that city. This alarmed the Athenians, who finally sent a force of their own to stop him. Realizing that he had spread himself too thin, Philip withdrew from both arenas and declared war on Athens. Despite having a better navy, the Athenians couldn't resist the Macedonians alone. It turns out they didn't have to. A most unexpected ally, the Thebans, joined them in attempting to check Philip's advance. The conflict came to a head when in the spring of 338 BC, Philip invaded central Greece yet again and marched towards Thebes. At a site near the town of Chaeronea, the Athenians and Thebans hastily put together an army of about 35,000 men that included smaller numbers from Achaia, Corinth, Chalkis, Epidaurus, Megara, and Troezene. The Macedonians and their allies, led by Philip and his 18-year-old son, Alexander, numbered approximately 30,000 infantry and 2,000 cavalry.
So you see Philip, all right, he in that Tupac hit him up spirit. He going to war with everybody, okay? And you see Alexander was 18 at the time, okay? Alexander was really out there, all right? He wasn't just no guy that just, fell on the scene. He was out there, okay? Like them guys, Dip said, be saying Jim Jones, he was outside, okay, for real, you know? So this is what Alexander was seeing, okay, his whole life, man. His father being a military strategist, okay?
In short, the battle ended up being a complete Macedonian victory, with the Thebans, Athenians, and their allies routed and forced to surrender. Their dead numbered in the thousands and included the elite Theban unit known as the Sacred Band of Thebes. With his superior infantry, which utilized the Macedonian phalanx to its fullest extent, along with his cavalry, Philip had essentially defeated the last major opposition to his rule in northern and central Greece. After the Battle of Chaeronea, Philip established what became known as the Hellenic League, also referred to by scholars as the League of Corinth. This was a pan-Hellenic organization with him at the helm. All of the major states of mainland Greece were essentially forced to join, the great exception being Sparta, whose leaders tersely warned Philip to stay out of their territory. As now the leader of a Greek superstate, Philip made the people a promise that he would liberate the Greek-speaking cities of Asia Minor from Persian rule. However, such bold plans would not be attempted during his lifetime, for in 336 BC, Philip II was assassinated during the wedding celebrations of his daughter, Cleopatra of Macedon. The man who held the blade was Pausanias, a member of his royal bodyguards, who himself was quickly killed as he fled the scene of the crime. There are many theories as to why Pausanias killed Philip and what his motives may have been. One is that he was Philip's lover and that the two had a falling out, while others contend that Pausanias could have been acting on behalf of one of Philip's many enemies within Greece, or even the Persian Empire. And then there are several theories about a conspiracy within his own family, especially involving his then estranged wife, Olympias, and their son, Alexander. According to Plutarch, in 337 BC, Philip married a noblewoman named Cleopatra Eurydice. Though she was his seventh wife and quite young, she was the only true Macedonian among them, which in the eyes of many nobles gave her a greater sense of legitimacy as a queen than his other foreign-born wives.
So you want to know where to invest $1,000 right now? Well, forget about stocks, real estate, or cryptocurrency. There is a little-known trend taking America by storm right now called digital.
This must have terrified Olympias, who, though she had a rocky relationship with Philip and had gone into exile to her homeland of Epirus, had always been his principal wife. It also threatened Alexander's position as crown prince, for if Cleopatra Eurydice bore Philip a pure Macedonian heir, it would mean that he would eventually become king. She actually did end up giving birth to a son named Caranus. And so, Philip was killed to ensure that Alexander would indeed succeed him. These are just some of the explanations for the assassination. We all know of Alexander the Great, his conquests, and other amazing achievements. However, as brilliant and brave as Alexander was, he would most likely not have been able to have achieved all that he did had it not been for his father Philip, who laid the groundwork for his future success. It was Philip who transformed Macedon from a rather petty kingdom into the most feared and powerful state in the Greek world. He did this in large part by transforming its military, especially its infantry units, which Alexander was to later perfect and used against his enemies with devastating efficiency. Though he did so by using violence and intimidation, Philip fostered a new sense of Pan-Hellenism that united most of the Greek mainland, save for Sparta, into one state. While its shaky foundation and forced cohesion prevented it from lasting in the long run, Alexander at least took the idea of a united Greek world with him far into Asia as he spread Hellenism to all corners of his empire and beyond. As for what happened to the body of Philip II,
So that's pretty much the point. All right. But as you can see, how the Most High put a spirit, all right, on Philip, okay, to lay the groundwork for Alexander, okay, and Philip was put to death because it was time for Alexander to fulfill major prophecy, okay, taking down, all right, the Persian Empire, and we can get it. Let's get into, prophecies that had to be fulfilled, and it was on Alexander, okay, to do it. All right, but I thought it would be interesting just to see the build up, any kind of history I see that I think it'd be good. We'll get into it. So let's get into some of this. Yeah, them Greeks was were freaky. Okay, I'm telling what went on. All right. So let's get Daniel. You can go into the 7th chapter. Start there. All right, so this is Daniel's 7th chapter, and Daniel's having a vision of this. Okay. This is Daniel 7:5, and it says, "And I beheld another beast, all right, second like a bear, and it raised up itself on one side." Okay, and that's the Medo-Persian Empire. And at one side that was raised up was the Persian Empire above the Medes. It says, and it had 3 ribs in his mouth of it between the teeth. And they said thus unto it, arise and devour much flesh, because the Persian Empire, okay, was a very vast and powerful empire. Okay. And after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which held upon the back of its 4 wings of a fowl. The beast, all right, had also 4 heads, and dominion was given into it. And this is the Greek Empire. Okay. And Philip started this, but Alexander fulfilled it. Okay. And after Alexander, it was split. All right. The Greek Empire was split, okay, into 4 empires ruled by his generals. Okay. Which we went into, I believe yesterday, according to Ptolemy. All right. Seleucid, the Seleucid line. Okay. Lysimachus and Cassandra. Okay. Those 4 heads. Now, when you go to the very next, okay, chapter in Daniel, all right, this is the book of Daniel, chapter 8 and 4. It says, I saw the ram, okay, well, in fact, I started like 3. It said, then I lifted up my eyes and saw and beheld, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns, going back to the Medo-Persian Empire. Okay, 1 horn represented the Medes and the other represented the Persians. And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last, and it's the Persian Empire. Okay. It says, I saw the realm pushing westward and northward and southward, and there's the Persian Empire expanding in every direction, so that no beast might stand before him, these other nations. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. Okay, because prophet, it was their time and prophecy to rule. Okay, and it says, and as I was considering, behold, a he goat, all right, Alexander, man, came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn, okay, between, all right, his eyes. Okay, so this Greek empire led by Alexander, this he goat, man, okay, and then notable horn going to Alexander, okay. You see, he was the one that was to raise, all right, in Greek to world dominance in that time, man. Okay, so hey, it was time for his father to get taken out. All right, the Most High iced him, and it was time for Alexander. Okay, the reason, what actually happened with his father. Okay, who cares? Okay, what actually happened to his father? Who cares, man? Okay, but we know for prophecy's sake, it was time for Alexander. Now, let's go back to the book of Maccabees. Okay, and then Maurice Heath, you talking, too much, brother. Post precepts, be spiritual, you know. Um, so let's go back to First Maccabees, and we're gonna walk it back to Esau. Okay, we're gonna walk it backwards from First Maccabees all the way to Esau, Edom. Okay. Now, when you go to First Maccabees 1:1, all right, it says, and it happened that after Alexander, the son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius, the king of the Persians and Medes. Okay, and that's fulfillment of Daniel the 8th chapter. There he go. Okay, had smitten Darius, the king of the Persians and the Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. Okay, so Philip the Macedonian can be linked to who? Okay, who can we link that to? All right, when you go to the editions of Esther, and this is Haman, pretty much. I mean, this is Mordecai, all right, writing to King Artaxerxes, okay, explaining to him about the wickedness of Haman. Okay, Mordecai being, okay, the Benjamite, all right, the uncle of Esther, okay, who became, a wife of Artaxerxes to pretty much set Israel up, to receive favor. The Most High is always putting plays together in the earth, man, for his purpose, man. Even when you go into that story dealing with Haman, Mordecai, all right, Esther, okay. Now, when you read the addition to Esther chapter 16, verse 1, okay, this is a letter from Mordecai to Artaxerxes, okay, and pretty much exposing Haman and his wickedness. All right. It says the great king Artaxerxes, all right, unto the princes and governors of 127 provinces. Yeah, the Persian Empire consisted of 127 provinces, and provinces are like states. It said from India unto Ethiopia, and unto all the faithful subjects greeting. Many the more often they are honored with the great bounty of their gracious princes, and more proud All right, they are waxing. It says, an endeavor to hurt not our subjects only, but not being able to bear abundance, do take in hand to practice also against those that do them good. And it's speaking of Esau, Edom. He's speaking of Haman. Okay, because this is the nature of the Edomite. Okay, you can be good to Esau, but this nigga is always planning and plotting. You can be up straight with him, but he gonna be, you know, deceitful with you. All right. And it says, and take not only thankfulness away from among men, but also lift it up with glorious words of lewd persons that were never good. They think to escape the justice of the Most High, that see of all things and hate of evil. Oftentimes, also fair speech of those that are put in trust to manage their friends' affairs have caused many that are in authority to be partakers of innocent blood and have enwrapped them in remediless calamities. Okay, because Haman was trying to get Artaxerxes to sign off, on exterminating, okay, the Jews, okay, which was the southern kingdom, okay, Benjamin, Judah, and Levi, that was subjugated under the Persian Empire. Okay, he was trying to get Artaxerxes to partake in that. All right, now when you keep reading, it says, but Galen, with the falsehood of deceit and their lewd disposition, the innocent and goodness of princes. Now ye may see this as we have declared, not so much by ancient histories, as ye may, if ye search what have been wickedly done of late throughout the pestilent behavior of them that are unworthily placed in authority, because Haman had rose up to the second, in power in the Persian Empire. Okay, but he was there working deception. Okay, and says that we must take care for the time to come, that our kingdom may be quiet and peaceable for our men, both by changing our purposes and always judging things that are evident with more equal proceeding. For Haman, it says Amen here, all right, but in the regular Bible, it says Haman. All right, it said for Haman, a Macedonian, you see, for Ammon, a Macedonian, the son of Amonatha, being indeed a stranger from the Persian blood, yeah, he's an Edomite, and far distant from our goodness, and as a stranger received of us, yeah, because Macedonia was more in the west. You had to go, way west to get to Macedonia. All right. So Mordecai, like, look, this guy is over here way, he's in the east, because the east dealt with, it's even today, man, which a lot of it is corrupted now, but the east would deal with more integrity and honor. Okay. That conniving, that cutthroat, okay, nigga energy comes from, just like today, the west, man. You see? So he knew that what Ammon was of Macedonia. Okay, now let's go there. So we link Alexander to Philip. Okay, his father Philip of Macedonia. Okay, but then it said Ammon, okay, was of Macedonia, or Edomite. So now let's get specific and link Ammon. All right, and link Haman with particular people. Okay. So you go from there, and let's get Esther the 3rd chapter. Let's get Esther the 3rd chapter. All right, now this is Esther 3:1. It says, and after these things, the king, all right, Artaxerxes promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, okay, the Agagite, and advanced him and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. So now it's referring to Haman, okay, to being his father being a what? Agagite. All right. So when you go to Agagite, what is it speaking of? Hold on. We're gonna what is Agagite linked to? In the Hebrew is Gaya. Okay. I will overtop. It will be what it means. I will overtop. Okay. Now, when you go into it, says patrial or patronymic. Okay. It says an Agagite or descendant of Agag. Okay. A descendant of Agag. Okay. Now, what was Agag? Let's get that in 1 Samuel, the 15th chapter. Now, I'll read this and I'll jump to 18. This is 1 Samuel 15 and 1. It says, Samuel also said unto Saul, the Lord sent me to anoint thee to be king over his people, over Israel. Now, therefore, hearken thou unto the voice of the words of the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Shai. Thus said the Lord of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel. Amalek, okay, how he laid wait for him in the way when he came up out of Egypt. Okay. So the Most High has had a long, all right, history, okay, of despising these Amalekites, man. Okay. And he sent Saul to go clear him out. Everything. But Saul disobeyed. And what did he do? Okay. Let's see. Now this is all right. 1 Samuel 5 and 18. It says, and the Lord sent thee on a journey and said, go and utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they be consumed. Wherefore, then thou didst obey, did not thou not obey the voice of the Lord, but didst fly upon the spoil and didst evil in the sight of the Lord. And Saul said unto Samuel, yeah, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and have gone the way which the Lord sent me, and have brought Agag, the king of Amalek, okay, and have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. Now, who is Amalek? Okay. Who is Amalek? So he called Haman the Agagite of Macedonia. You know, Philip was of their kingly line of Macedon, or the Macedonians. Okay. And when you go to Agag, okay, what does it say? It says, son of Eliphaz by his concubine Timnah, grandson of Esau. Okay, grandson of Esau. Okay, and these Amalekites today consist of the elite bankers. Okay, and through Alexander, that was their first, all right, time having world dominion, all right, in the known world at that time. Okay, and the prophecy spoke on there. Remember, it said if a brother can post it, First Maccabees 1:1, so we can link it with prophecy. You know, for brother post First Maccabees 1:1, and we're gonna link it with prophecy, man. Okay, so now when you go to Numbers, the 24th chapter. Okay. So when you get Numbers 24 and 24, and it says, and when he looked on Amalek, he took up his parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nations, but his latter end shall be that he shall perish forever, because through Amalek that was Esau's first world dominion through the Greeks. Okay, through the empire forged, you know, by Philip and completed through Alexander. Okay, because Alexander went to take down who? The Persians. Because when you go here, okay, let's read this again, and then we're gonna get it in prophecy. Now, this is First Maccabees 1:1, and it happened after Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius, the king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned, okay, in his stead, the first, okay, over Greece. All right. Now, when you go to prophecy, okay, when you go to prophecy, and you read Numbers 24 and 24, it says, and the ship shall come from the coast of Shittim and shall afflict Ashur. Now, you have to understand Ashur, when you go into these empires, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Medo-Persian Empire, they all ruled pretty much the same land. It was just transferred from one people to another with a few additions here and there. Okay, each empire expanding a little more, but that area was known as what? Mesopotamia. Okay, so when Alexander came, okay, to Persia, all right, by the way of ships, okay, he afflicted, all right, that empire, that Persian empire that was in that land, okay, and shall afflict Eber, which Eber goes back to who? Hebrew, all right, because under the rule of the Greeks, because remember, the Persians allowed us to go back and build the temple and kind of do our own little thing, okay, but under Esau, that's what you get through the Greeks, all right, especially through the Seleucids, okay, it was recorded how people was afflicted, okay, but listen, it says, and he also shall perish forever. And who is that? He's talking to Amalek, okay, Amalek Sinis, all right, which he just represents the head of Esau Edom, okay, he's the figurehead of the nation of Edom, because he's the brains, he's the financiers, okay, of, all right, this Edomite empire, okay. Now, when you go to Bibles that you know is speaking of Amalek perishing forever, this is the New King James Version. It said, but ships shall come from the coast of Cyprus, okay, going back to Shittim, and they shall afflict Ashur and afflict Eber, okay, and so shall Amalek, okay, until he perishes, until Amalek perishes, man, okay, because He came into power as the Greeks, then they were transferred to the Romans, okay, which were Edomites. And then he went down during the Dark Ages, but now he's back in power, and this time he's going down for good. He's going into captivity, and then he's going to be completely done away with. Okay? This man will have two major rulerships as the Greeks and the Romans, and then he was come back in this revived Roman Empire, okay, and be utterly destroyed forever. Okay? So let's get this word shittim. Let's get the definition of the word shittim and watch this. Now you get that word, all right, shittim in the Hebrew is katayata, all right, katayata, okay, which means bruisers, okay. Now it says general term for all islanders of the Mediterranean Sea. Now, when you go into the strong definitions, it says an islander in general, i.e., the Greeks or the Romans on the shores opposite of Palestine. The Greeks or the Romans on the shores opposite of Palestine, man. Okay. Now let's go down some more. Let's go into this Strong's. Okay. And it says ships from the side or the direction of Shittim, more generally of coastlands of the Mediterranean, even of Macedonian Greece. Okay, even of Macedonian Greece. You see how prophecy, the pieces just fit perfectly, man. Okay, i.e., Grecian ships, man. Oh boy. All right, so you see how everything links up in prophecy, man. And history, you know, is showing you that the Most High, all right, has this thing mapped out, man, from beginning to end. You know, let's get this here, man. Okay. So everything that played out was written before time. Philip was just a part of the Lord's plan. Okay. And he finished it off with Alexander. All right. And that was pretty much the beginning of the end, because when these devils start Hellenizing the earth, man, they really start heaping a lot of a lot of charges to themselves, man. Okay. And then this time, as he want to take it a step further and get inside you, man. All right. This is Isaiah 46:9 said, remember the former things of old, for on the Most High there is none else. I am the Most High, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from the ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, I will do all my pleasure. Okay, I will do all my pleasure. That's what the Lord is doing. He's doing all his pleasure, man. Okay, through prophecy. That's how the Lord fulfills his pleasure, through prophecy, man. So how much more him establishing his people, all right, as an eternal, rightful, righteous kingdom in the earth. Okay, we see how he fulfills, you know, all the words that are written. Okay, well, we were writing it, what we read in Numbers has happened exactly how he said it was gonna happen, man. Okay, so let's go here. Every time he speaks of Amalek, he's always speaking to destroying these niggas forever, man. Okay, the scum of Edom is you Amalekites, man. Okay. And this is Exodus 7:14. And the Lord said to Moses, write this for a memorial in a book and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua, for I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven, that's in the earth. Okay, and everything that Amalek has built, because Amalek has built this current society, man. Okay, they're the witches and warlocks that's behind this current wicked satanic society, man. Okay, and this whole world system is going to be removed from under heaven, man. You see, everything that this man has set up and established is going to be removed in the earth, man. Even him. Okay, all you Edomites, man. Amalek is just at the forefront, like I said, because it's the wicked priesthood, okay, and the finances of this wicked society. It says that Moses built an altar and called the name of it Yahweh, all right, Nashah. And for he said, because the Lord has sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation, man. And it's going to come to a head now, okay? So you think it was some when the Most High on the left hand side, son Alexander, okay, at those Persians, okay? You wait till he seen Yahweh Shah at Amalek, man. Okay, wait till he send his son, all right, to go get that work, man. You know? So that's the point, all right. I just want to bring that out. You know, Lord will, you know, you brothers, you few sisters were edified. You know, I thought it'd be good to go into that history, and get that understanding, okay, of what's going on. So it's the Lord that ruleth in the kingdoms of men. He does what he wants, how he wants. And we got the script, okay? And according to the script, he's finna set up Yahweh Shai, okay? And the kingdom that's promised to Israel is finna be established in the earth, man. All right? So till next time I say Shalom, Kwame Yashala, Abab, DTA soon, Shalom.